you know, there's a lot that you already know. What you don't know is the name of my website, which is bestmedicine.us. And the phone number here in Sarasota is 941-404-8030. Okay. So let's go. I'm having trouble with it. So I've enumerated 7 reasons. Okay, the title of the talk is Preventing Dementia. So we all want to do that because prevention beats rescue. And in this case, there is no rescue. They haven't figured out. They're going down the wrong path. And of course, conventional medicine doesn't do prevention. It just has a drug for every symptom. And sadly, dementia is not one of those that is amenable to drug therapy. So we want to prevent. So here are 7 reasons, and you don't need to, if you put your email, I'll send you the PowerPoint. Okay, so you can relax, you don't have to be writing like crazy. But Sabrina, just make note of that, okay? Okay, so poor nutrition is number 1. And we all know that that can give us any number of ailments. Inactivity is number 2. The body is made to move, and we don't move enough. We don't have to. From the couch to the refrigerator is not exercise. Medications are a big one, and I'll talk about that. There's a lot and each of these could be a talk in itself. So I'm kind of going to skim and hopefully leave a few minutes at the end for questions. Brain damaging toxins. So medications could be put under that rubric, but I've made them separate so that we can still respect the pharma industry and what it does for us. Chronic infections is a big one. And you'll be surprised at where these infections can lurk, even if you don't realize that you have. You can then, Sabrina can. Okay, chronic infections. Social isolation, I've named as one of the causes of dementia. You could put that under the category of stress, but it's really its own category. And the physiologic changes that go along with aging. So there's normal aging, and there's abnormal aging, and there's slowed aging. So that will be the topic of next month's talk, is longevity and how to stay young longer. So I don't need to go into this, but I'll just read what I put down for poor nutrition. A nutrient-poor, calorie-rich, standard American diet. Low protein, poor quality protein, highly refined carbohydrates that satisfy your mouth but not your body. Poor quality fats and oils, which are abundant in our standard American diet. Low fiber. They've taken out the fiber. And foods that are grown in nutrient-poor soil, which sadly is most of the food in the supermarket. So the benefits of exercise, again, I'll just enumerate them and you can take it for what it is. Physical fitness equals the best setting for a healthy brain. Your circulation is better when you exercise. Your heart is stronger, your arteries are cleaner, and your brain gets more oxygen. So more muscle is actually better for your brain because muscle communicates with brain. It sends neurotransmitters and hormones. So it muscles. And as we age, of course, we lose muscle mass. So there are ways around that, and I'll talk about that in a little while. Less fat when you exercise. Fat holds toxins. Most of the toxins that are in the environment are fat soluble. And so they stick around. The plastics, the pesticides, the herbicides. Improved endurance and metabolic flexibility happens with more exercise. So we'll talk again about flexibility a bit later. Your moods will be better and you'll sleep better the more you exercise. Of course, you have to start where you are, and don't sign up for an Ironman today. You have to train for that. Maybe never get there. I've never done a marathon. In fact, I only competed once in a 3K, and I decided I was not good for competition because I didn't run again for like a month. It just exhausted me. I pushed myself too hard. So you have to know yourself. And in the later years, you don't need to be sweating and huffing and puffing. You need to exercise to the point where you can't comfortably hold a conversation. So a little sweating is good, a little huffing and puffing, but don't kill yourself, please. All right, so now we can talk about the medications. So I have 3 that I really despise as far as brain health is concerned. The first one is the statin drugs. So there's a great book out by a guy who used to be the doctor for the astronauts. And his name is Dwayne Graveline, Graveline. He's not in my reference list, so if you want to read it. And he talks about the misguided war on cholesterol. He started taking statins. And he was a brilliant man, clearly he was high up in the pantheon of doctors. And one day he found himself in a strange neighborhood, not knowing where he was, how he got there, or how to get out of there. And this was before GPS and before wonderful gizmos that have control of our lives. And so he didn't know what happened. That kind of episode is called global amnesia. You just completely lose your bearings. You don't know your name even. So he didn't know what it was, but it happened again. And so he suspected that the only new thing was the statin drug that he had started. So he went off it and stayed off it for a long time, then went back on, and it happened again. So statins can directly affect the brain. They can indirectly affect it because they lower your coenzyme Q10 levels. And I suspect most of you know that, but a lot of your doctors don't know that. So CoQ10 is important for generating energy in every single cell in your body. If you have to be on a statin, or if you are on a statin and you don't know what else to do, please get some CoQ10 from Susie and start taking that. It will upregulate your energy. The muscle aches that statins tend to produce will get better, and you'll protect your brain. So then the second set of the category of drugs that I really don't like for brain health is the acid blocking drugs. So many of us are on those. So the minute you tell a conventional doctor that you have heartburn, they'll pull out their prescription pad and prescribe you Prilosec or Nexium or something in that category. You can buy them over the counter now. They're so-called safe, but they're not safe. Why is that? Well, nature doesn't do anything for no reason. And acid is put in your stomach to help you begin digestion. Imagine, we need very, very serious acid in order to break down proteins, in order to absorb minerals, and in order to sterilize the food. So if you're blocking acid, you're going to slowly become deficient in protein, in minerals, and you'll be prone to digestive upset from bad bacteria, from parasites, from anything that wants to set up housekeeping in your gut. Make sense? So why does reflux happen? And this is a topic for another discussion. But the reason is that you're putting food in your stomach that isn't compatible with your body. So the most common thing that I find is that people are eating gluten. They may be allergic or sensitive to gluten. And then they're eating dairy and eggs from animals that are being fed gluten. So wheat, dairy, and eggs are the biggest offenders. So if you have reflux and you want to know what's causing it, eliminate those 3 foods. Do it for 2 weeks, and then try eating something. Just one. Don't have a sausage, egg, and cheese biscuit. Have just a piece of bread and see what happens. Or an egg and see what happens. Or some dairy product, yogurt, or cottage cheese. Usually the hard cheeses are okay. The hard cheeses are much more fatty than protein, and it's protein that we become allergic to. So I digress, this is becoming too much of a talk about digestion. So the other thing that the proton pump inhibitors, this category of drugs, do is that because they lower acid, they don't trigger the release of pancreatic juices. Pancreatic juices contain enzymes, and they contain bicarbonate to neutralize the acid coming from the stomach. So that's another reason that you gradually become less well nourished when you're on these meds, and that affects, of course, the brain. The final category of drugs that I really don't like for brain health is sleepers, sleep aids, Ambien, Xanax, whatever else they've got, Valium, I don't know. But they produce a sleep that is not nourishing, that is not cleansing for the brain. So how many of you own an Apple Watch or a Fitbit or a Ring? Good. So the rest of you, if you have trouble sleeping, please purchase a sleep tracker device. It will help you to learn what your sleep pattern looks like. And then we can talk later about how to fix it. But you'll be able to see what you're doing wrong. The most common problem is people are going to bed too late. You get your best deep sleep early in the evening. We are designed to go to bed when it's dark out, not when you turn the lights off at midnight. It's when the sun goes down, people. We are in sync, or we are supposed to be in sync with this planet. And the planet has a rotation that gives us half light and half dark. So we should be sleeping when it's dark and awake when it's light, but so many of us don't do that. So we miss out on the best hours of sleep. Okay, so then we come to brain damaging toxins. The top one on my list is probably the most common, and in our standard American diet, and that is glyphosate, or Roundup. So Roundup is an herbicide, and they've genetically modified most of our crops in order that they can pour Roundup all over them. Roundup is not toxic directly to humans, but it's toxic to your gut bacteria. Your gut bacteria are the basis of your good health. There's a gut-brain interaction. So if you don't have the right gut flora or microbiome, your brain will suffer. You won't be producing the factors that keep you healthy and that keep your brain healthy. Dry cleaning fluids now have been seriously linked to brain damage, particularly Parkinsonism. So when you bring something, God forbid you work in one of those places, please, or your kids do, or your grandchildren, please tell them, get another job. It's not worth it, because 30 years from now you will regret it. So if you do dry clean something, take the plastic off and hang it outside. Let it outgas in nature, not inside the house. So those are very, very toxic to the brain. By the way, coffee is good for your brain. And people who drink coffee tend not to get Parkinson's at the same rate. So it's, that's one thing I love. When I find something good about coffee, I'll put that in my talk. Okay, heavy metals are everywhere. We put them in our mouths, or our dentists used to do that. They're phasing them out now, and they have another revenue source of removing amalgam fillings. Amalgam fillings are 50% mercury. Mercury is the most toxic element that's not also radioactive. So if you do have amalgams, please find a holistic dentist to remove them, because they do it the right way. Otherwise, you're going to be exposed to much higher levels. And then I've treated many dentists with huge amounts of mercury in their brains. The treatment is chelation therapy. And that's the only way to get it out. Removing the amalgams from your teeth is not enough. You have to also remove it from where it's stuck in your tissues and has built up over a lifetime. Fish is the other source of mercury. So you go to the Environmental Working Group website, ewg.org, and find out which are the best fish to eat and which ones to avoid. So the larger fish, the predatory fish that eat smaller fish, concentrate mercury. And so the swordfish, the sharks, the big groupers, they are the worst. The little sardines, they're okay. You can have sardines and herring and milgard. Mold is a huge problem for the brain. So we can have mold in our house. We can have sick building syndrome, which is mold in office buildings where you can't even open the windows. How crazy is that? And you can also have mold established in your body. So usually it goes to the sinuses. If you have chronic sinus drainage, think about seeing somebody who can test you for mold. That may be a real problem. And anybody with chronic fatigue, chronic most anything, should be tested for mold. Illegal drugs, some of them, like methamphetamine and cocaine, are damaging to the brain. Other illegal drugs can actually upregulate your brain, so the psychedelics are in that category. Very interestingly, they help the brain grow new connections, when dosed correctly, of course, and knowledgeably. So then, a lot of skincare products have toxins in them. Full Spectrum carries the best line of cosmetics that I know of and skincare products. Full Spectrum Health. Susie, stand up. It's called Eminence, and it comes from Hungary, like my parents did. And it's practically edible. It's made from food substances, and it's very, very non-toxic, and they're very careful about that. They have a wonderful esthetician named Lynn, who only uses Eminence products. Okay, so then of course pesticides, plastics, micro and otherwise. You never want to microwave food in a plastic container because it will outgas into your food. So use glass or use ceramic when you're microwaving. Okay, so now we're talking about chronic infections. So let's start with the mouth. Gingivitis is a source of bad bacteria that can travel to the brain. It's been found in the brains of Alzheimer's patients post-mortem. It can also go to your heart and cause heart disease. So you don't want to let a smoldering gingivitis go on. There are lots of ways to fix that beyond what we're talking about today, but even just rinsing with hydrogen peroxide instead of not Lysol, root canal teeth almost always have abscess pockets in the bottom of them. Because the nerve is dead, you don't feel any pain, but it's festering away in there. So again, a holistic dentist will help identify those and get those teeth out and get the abscess clean. I'm getting dirty looks, I understand, but that's how it goes. So you want to hear it, you don't want to hear it, you're going to hear it anyway. So again, mold can be a chronic problem for a lot of people. Lyme disease and viruses of all kinds, like Epstein-Barr virus, they can cause brain fog and cognitive decline. So a knowledgeable practitioner, which there are not very many, will test you for that and treat you for that. And it does not require years of antibiotics. That's probably the worst way to go. I use intravenous ozone for Lyme disease and ultraviolet blood irradiation. Or I did, I don't have that available now. We're working on it. Even hyperbaric oxygen, where there is a facility here in town, can treat these infections that way. Your gut microbiome can contain very toxin-producing bacteria, and so you want to get that tested. There are wonderful tests now that aren't trying to grow these bacteria. When you go to a conventional doctor and ask for a stool test, you're going to get one that comes back and says, no salmonella or shigella, normal gut flora. That is inadequate. When I order a stool test, I get a 7-page readout of who exactly is living in your gut and who is not, because they're testing the DNA in your stool, not the living creatures. You know, it's much more comprehensive. It tells you if you have enough good guys. So with all those probiotics that you're taking, do you need all that? Or do you need a different strain? So it can save you money in the long run. These tests are not covered by insurance, but really they do wind up saving you money and putting you on a much better, more direct route to good health. And then the gut-brain connection we mentioned. So here we go, social isolation. So social isolation was rampant. We all did it during COVID. And it was very hard on us because we had little connection except over the internet. And we need company. We need the vibrational frequencies of our human family. And it's so important that so many people committed suicide during that time. And at least were suicidally depressed because of that. Not only that, but the stimulation that comes from conversation, that comes from touching, that comes from sitting in each other's energy field is so important. Boredom can be lethal too. So all of that adds to your chronic stress, causes your cortisol to go up. Cortisol is your stress hormone, and it's not meant to be elevated all the time. It's meant to be elevated when you need it and then to dissipate when you don't need it. So if you're always under stress, it breaks down your brain tissue. And then low, wonderful, satisfying love hormones like oxytocin and dopamine comes from social isolation. Again, when we're together, especially with family and friends, we're producing these energizing, calming, and loving hormones. Okay, so the physiologic changes of aging, which do occur to some degree in everyone. I'm going to just enumerate them. Dehydration, that's not really an aging factor, but because we chronically don't drink enough fluids, and we don't put electrolytes in the fluids that we do drink. So if you're drinking purified water, it won't stay in your body. You need a little bit of salt. A pinch of that pink, lovely Himalayan sea salt will work wonders in a bottle of water to help you retain it and to help get it into your cells. So when we look at scans, MRIs, CT scans, SPECT scans of elderly brains, we always see shrinkage. And sometimes we see big holes. So this is not good. We want our brains to be juicy and fat. The brain is actually made 60% of fat. So don't be afraid. Good fats, healthy fats, and lots of slightly salted water. Not sodium chloride. Sodium chloride, Morton salt, is not the best. Sea salt is better, especially from very clean sources. So I do prefer Himalayan salt, the pink stuff, because it comes from the mountains. And there's not a lot of particulate that falls down on it, contaminating it from factories and from smoke from automobiles and planes and what have you. So get clean salt and use it, don't be afraid. So one of the functions that young people do really well is they explode their senescent cells. Old cells that can no longer divide are either eaten by the white blood cells or they commit suicide. And then their body parts can be used again and recycled. So that process is called autophagy, which means eating yourself. It's like cannibalism. Sounds awful, but it's part of the regeneration process. So we don't want old zombie cells hanging around. We want to get rid of them. So we lose our ability to autophagize, and we can regain that too. We have fewer stem cells. Stem cells that they're getting them from umbilical cords, right? Brand new babies have more stem cells than anybody. And as we age, we have fewer and fewer, and each decade it goes down by about half as much. So then we have to go and pay somebody to give us somebody's stem cells or to rejuvenate our cells. Our cells are capable of going backwards and becoming stem cells. And we can actually grow new neurons. When I was in medical school, they taught us that that doesn't happen, but it's really a myth. We can grow new neurons. We can regenerate ourselves. One of the ways that we can do that is by going on the hormones that we lose as we age. So the loss of steroid hormones. Steroid hormones are made from cholesterol. So that's another reason that statins are dangerous for us. One of the steroid hormones that you may not even know is a hormone is vitamin D. So it's not a vitamin because we can make it in our bodies, but only if we have cholesterol and the magic of sunshine. So it's either that or take a pill. Either way, get your vitamin D up to 60 to 80. 60 to 80 is the magic ideal place for vitamin D. You won't get cancer if your vitamin D is up to that, and you won't be depressed either. So, but as far as the other hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, pregnenolone, which is one you never heard of. So cholesterol, the first hormone made from cholesterol is pregnenolone, and then all the others are made from that. So you can buy pregnenolone over the counter, it's that safe. So even if you don't know your levels, if you have a good doctor, ask them to check your levels. But I promise you, if you're over 60, your pregnenolone levels are going to be low. So you might as well try it. It's not going to hurt you. And then find someone who can prescribe the others. Progesterone is also a very safe hormone. You can buy it over the counter. Again, Susie carries progesterone, and I highly recommend that everybody, the females in this room, please use progesterone every day for the rest of your life. If you're still cycling and you have heavy periods, and you have fibroids, and you have cysts, and you have endometriosis, progesterone is the antidote. So tell your daughters and your granddaughters, and don't let them take fake hormones, whatever they do, meaning birth control pills. Yes?
Doing progesterone every day, can your levels get too high?
No.
They can't, so no, there's not a too high on that.
No, that's one of the magical things that you can't overdose on. Vitamin B12 is another one.
Okay, thank you.
That's not true of vitamin D, though. So please have someone check your levels. But if you buy an over-the-counter cream, there'll be a pump, or there'll be a spoon, or there'll be some way to measure it. So you don't have to guess, you know, and just, you'll see it. It levels your mood, keeps your brain healthy. It's very powerful in brain injury or in multiple sclerosis. It also will reverse osteopenia and osteoporosis.
Is there an age limit as we age?
Yeah, when you're dead, you could stop using it.
Okay. Gotcha.
So sleep disorders tend to get worse as we age. And a lot of that is hormonal, but a lot of that is, you know, anxiety and this and that and all the things that we just talked about. Poor diet, going to bed too late. Get yourself a sleep tracker. It's well worth the money. And figure out what you need to do to get your sleep improved. So melatonin is helpful. It's the natural hormone that the body produces in order to put you to sleep. But there are a lot of other things. Ashwagandha helps. Mushrooms, I love mushrooms. I use them mostly to upregulate energy. But they are called adaptogens, and they can help lower your cortisol levels at night. So when your stress hormones are high, you need something to lower it. So phosphatidylserine, or PS, helps lower cortisol. So if you're going to take that for brain health, take it at night. Anywhere from 100 to 300 milligrams. Yes. So when you're not sleeping properly, and you're not getting enough deep sleep, which again happens early in your sleep cycle, your brain is not getting rid of the amyloid plaque and the tau tangles that they talk about in Alzheimer's disease. There is no drug, at least not yet, that can do that, and we don't know even if that is the cause of Alzheimer's, or maybe it's just a secondary effect. So you don't want that stuff to accumulate. When you get deep sleep, your brain fires in a different way. There are waves of spikes that travel from the back of your brain to the front, and the lymphatic system is activated. So you know about the lymphatic system in the body that cleans out toxins. I hope you know. You do now. The lymphatic system is the equivalent in the brain. And those waves of spike energy that flow through the brain during deep sleep help push the toxins out, the amyloid and the tau. So remember, prevention beats rescue. Okay, so I'm just going to mention some foods that are helpful. You'll recognize them already because they're helpful for every system in the body. So leafy greens, purple and blue veggies. I love those little purple potatoes. So those are polyphenols. And when you eat colorful foods, you're doing your body a huge favor. Polyphenols are brain protective. Bitter herbs. Bitter herbs start the juices flowing. So you don't have to put, bitters on everything. You can eat parsley. Throw some parsley in your salad. That's a bitter. And it causes digestive juices to flow. So do that at the beginning of a meal. Yeah, so broccoli, chard, kale, radicchio. All of those things are full of polyphenols. Purple carrots too, they have purple and yellow carrots. They're so cool. Okay, fermented foods, you probably know the benefits of vinegar, non-GMO dairy products, kefir, and yogurt, and I like the European cheeses too, because their cows don't eat genetically modified foods. Okay. Pickles, anything pickled, sauerkraut. You like that? So it's interesting how nature suggests things to us. So what do walnuts look like? They look like a brain. And they have fabulous oil in them that really is good for your brain. And it also lowers your risk of death from all causes. So just a small handful of walnuts every day. They did that study. You don't have to eat them every day. But vary the nuts that you eat. Nuts have lots of interesting oils, and your brain needs all kinds of fats. So nuts are a good thing to add to your diet. Avocado, of course. Extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil, MCT oil, which is a derivative of coconut oil that you can buy in a bottle, just as MCT oil, which means medium chain triglycerides. There'll be a quiz at the end of the day. That's what that is. Butyrate is another form of brain healthy ketones. Sesame oil, walnut oil. Dark chocolate, I'm happy to report, is good for your brain. Has to be low in sugar and high in cacao. So the really dark chocolate, 72 to 85%. Cinnamon lowers blood sugar and contains polyphenols. And you can put cinnamon in your coffee and get double benefit. Green tea and matcha tea are also helpful. Protein should come from either grass-fed and pasture-raised animals or vegan protein that's clean. I'm not a big fan of veganism, but if you must, then there are certain supplements that you really need to take, like B12, zinc, and extra protein. Okay, with fishes we talked about. Sweeteners. The best sweeteners are allulose from dates or date sugar, monk fruit, stevia, and erythritol, which now there's some controversy about that. But honey, a little bit is good. It's a natural sweetener, but remember, in the wild, honey is guarded by bees, so you don't eat a lot of it. For cooking, you want the oils that can resist high temperature. Coconut oil, olive oil, butter, or ghee. Never margarine. Or, I'm looking at you, Carol. They tell them in Canada to use margarine, I'm sorry, no. No hard fats, margarine, like Crisco. That's anathema. Butter is fine. Ghee is fine, even for people who are allergic to dairy, because again, there's very little protein in butter or ghee. Egg yolk is really good for choline, which is brain food, and B vitamins. So red, blue, and purple foods like blueberries, bilberries, purple cabbage, red cabbage, carrots, pomegranates, raspberries, which are all low in sugar. And then goat and sheep yogurt, if you're cow allergic, but unsweetened. So use the berries in your yogurt now. You'll get used to it, you don't need sugar. All right, so here comes some brain supplements. This is where you take out your pen and pencil and paper. Lion's mane mushroom is an absolute favorite. It can be cooked into stews and soups and stir fries. It's quite delicious. You can find it in some of your high-end groceries, but you can also get it in capsule form. And it's one of the most powerful anti-dementia strategies that you can use. So, you may not see it on the first time you take it, but be patient. And then you can layer it with other supplements. So layering means that you take less of it, but you take more different things, because they all act in different ways. So citicoline, C-I-T-I, choline, has a factor of choline, which is used for cell membranes and for the neurotransmitter acetylcholine. And then the city part turns into uridine in the body, which is also a brain upregulator and is necessary for making DNA and RNA. Interestingly. Ginseng is an ancient, comes from a tree that's hundreds of thousands of years old and has survived all of the extinctions, including the one that killed the dinosaurs. and it's been used in Chinese medicine for thousands of years. It improves blood flow throughout the body, but particularly to the brain. So you know that your brain is 3% of your body weight, but it uses 20% of your blood flow and 20% of your glucose, your energy food. Don't eat glucose, your body makes it from protein, from carbohydrate, and from fat. So you don't need to be eating more sugar. Bacopa is an interesting one. It also comes from a plant. And the more you take it, the longer you take it, the better it works. So a lot of things reach a peak and then you don't get much benefit. And then it's good to go off it or rotate it. But not Bacopa. Bacopa you can stay on for a long, long time. So then Thai ginger, it's a member of the ginger family, but it's not the ginger that you're familiar with. It's the one that they use in Thailand. And An Extra is a product that contains this type of ginger. It has a mild euphoric effect, and it upregulates your dopamine and your maybe oxytocin, I'm not sure, but certainly dopamine.
What was that called?
Thai, T-H-A-I, ginger. And the product name is An Extra, A-N-E-X-T-R-A, I believe.
Capsules? Pills?
I haven't researched it enough to know that. In fact, I just heard about it on a podcast, and I'm planning to get some as soon as.
What you said produces euphoria. It's
Euphoria.
like, okay, want to know more about it?
We all want that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and microdosing psychedelics can do the same. And also grow new brain connections. So I'm a big fan of the psychedelic mushrooms. And it both for psychiatric disorders and also for exploring beyond beyond the five senses.
Do you do a workshop on that?
I can certainly do that.
Like where everybody does mushrooms?
So not in this state.
Okay. But in other states?
Oregon.
Oregon. Just curious.
And some cities in California and Colorado allow it, but not here yet. It'll be probably 3 decades.
We're a little slow on the ball.
But guess what? People are doing it. Like you didn't
Of course they
know.
are.
CoQ10 is a great brain upregulator. And then the omega-3 oils, whether from fish or from algae, you know, if you're a veggie person, get it from algae. And the brain requires that. My mother used to call fish brain food, even she knew back then. That was a long time ago. Okay, so exercise should include endurance training, strength training to build muscle, and flexibility. Let's not forget flexibility. To improve your range of motion, stretch every day, do yoga. It helps your mind stay flexible too. So do games and puzzles, learning new things. I'm currently learning Hungarian. So I told you my parents came from Hungary. They would talk to each other all the time, but they didn't teach it to me. And so I have the template. I can pronounce wonderfully. Anybody that speaks Hungarian thinks I know it fluently because my accent is good. But I don't have the vocabulary and the grammar. So now I've decided I'm going to learn it. So you got an app called Duolingo, it's free. And it's fun, and it's easy, and it's challenging, and it's everything that you do to learn helps your brain stay flexible. Exercise your creativity, whatever form that means to you. So when my mother married her third husband, he was really the love of her life. But he decided that even though she was a wonderful seamstress, she used to design clothing that sold it to Saks Fifth Avenue and Bonnewood Teller in New York, until of course she became pregnant. And then she only had one job, and that was raising me. So good for me, bad for her. He wanted her to stop sewing, and she did. And that was not a good thing, because once he died, she just sat down and she was done. She wasn't gonna look for another man, and her brain function deteriorated rapidly after that. I believe that had she still been using her hands the way she used to, her brain would have maintained itself much longer. So if you do anything with your hands, or you've ever wanted to learn to paint or draw or crochet or anything like that, do it, do it. You know, just let yourself go for it. If not now, when? And then practice your social skills, empathy, compassion, gratitude, optimism. Greet the world with a smile and a joke. You know, do something for somebody that you never met or you just feel sorry for. You know, the homeless person who was out in the cold all night, buy him a cup of soup. You know, just go give him something to eat. It makes you feel good. Oh, and donating blood is another thing to do that's good for your brain, because most of us are hoarding iron in our bodies. Not when we're menstruating, but post-menopause. And men often have too high iron levels, and that can cause inflammation. And when you donate blood, it lowers your iron levels and gets rid of inflammation. So there's something you can do, gratuitous act of kindness. Okay, so